we get to the big one, the one I should have talked about back in March, but anyone who knows me, I've been having some personal problems, such. John Wick Chapter 4. Yes. John Wick Chapter 4. In my opinion, the Mission Impossible Fallout and Dead Reckoning of 2023. And in my opinion, should be the final film of the John Wick series. This is a neo-noir action thriller. This is the sequel to John Wick's 1, 2, and 3, and the fourth entry in the John Wick franchise. This is once again directed by Stahelski, co-produced by him, written by Shay Hatten and Michael Finch, with Derek Kolstad not being the writer this time around, but based on characters. This stars Keanu Reeves, Donnie Yen, Bill Skarsgård, Laurence Fishburne, Hiroyuki Sanada, Shamier Anderson, Lance Reddick, Rena Ramaya, Scott Atkins, and Ian McShane. In this movie, we follow John Wick as he sets out to get revenge on the High Table and those who left him for dead. Basically, what's going on here is, in this, he has the price on his head ever going increasing. So he takes his fight against this group of people as he seeks out the most powerful players from the underworld, from New York to Paris to Japan to a final showdown in Berlin. When it comes to the John Wick franchise, what more can you say about this franchise? This is one of the most consistently great franchises that I have had fun with. And every time I've watched any of these movies, I've been a fan of the John Wick movies ever since the first movie. The first movie came out of nowhere, pretty much 2014. Everyone thought, what is this? And then it got pushed for a big theatrical release. And then we got sequels. John Wick Chapter 2 is my favorite of them. Parabellum was really good, even though the story did meander a little bit. But going into John Wick Chapter 4, I was obviously excited. I love the franchise. These movies keeps getting better and better. And this movie was originally supposed to come out in 2021, but that didn't work out. It was delayed throughout the COVID pandemic, and then it was supposed to come out in 2022, but it got pushed again because of Top Gun Maverick, and it didn't want to compete against that. But we finally got it here, of course, and this is in my top 5 favorite movies of the year. I love this movie. There are a few issues I do have, which I'm going to go on and get into those first. And I will say some of the issues I have. My big issue when it comes to this is I do think the movie is at least 20 to 45 minutes or 35 minutes too long. It's really well paced. There's never a moment in this where I'm bored or anything. I just feel like there's a good action scene here that lasts for 30 minutes, which goes on for a good while, and it's really well done. But I just feel like it kind of overstays its welcome a little bit. And also there is some heavy exposition and world building that, while I think is really important and really competent, I do feel like some of the exposition could have been this. It is going to cause a little bit of some confliction with some people. Me personally, with what they did with the ending, honestly, there was no other way they could have went about this. So I pretty much like that aspect here. That alone, me personally, I see it as this when it comes to what happens. Either the certain said main character was going to retire, or it was going to go this route. Because they basically was pulling influence, the director and writers was pulling influence from the good and the bad and the ugly. What they do with Sharon may conflict some people. It doesn't really bother me what they did with Sharon. It kind of makes sense, but it is a little hard to watch because If you know what happened to the actor who plays him, it is a little bit unexpected. So they pretty much released this movie before he died. It really did hurt a lot of the fans, especially in a lot of the people filming it. And unfortunately, I do miss Halle Berry as Sophia. I do wish they could have worked out to have Sophia in this movie. But those are really my only issues when it comes to this, because a lot of this movie is an action masterpiece and definitely one of the best movies of the 2020s and definitely one of the best sequels ever. As far as the rest of this movie goes, there's a lot to go in. One, story here. It does have a good story here, and I definitely really enjoy a lot of the world building that they do give to you. There are some great moments here when it comes to the story and the world build up and the character stuff here. And you do get some more layers when it comes to John Wick and the characters, especially emotional wise. It also does have ways of getting us invested in the ensemble going against John Wick. And every character in this movie does have a reason for being involved here. World build up when it comes to it. They give us more build up with the continental world with some of the creative side of things. And I definitely do appreciate that side of the things when it comes to this movie. And I also really enjoyed that they give the villain's perspective to do when you have, in the case of Bill Skarsgård, as Marquise being the most conniving and manipulative as you would hope, but also you get to see someone who is completely drenched in power, and also pretty much wants to be a full-on unhinged and wants John Wick ahead. The rivalry between him and John Wick is actually really well done. So there's a lot of interesting elements in the story that I really enjoyed, and I don't want to give it away for some people who are pretty hesitant on it and some people who haven't seen it. But I really thought that the way it was handled in terms of John Wick and the world build up and the character stuff and the villain stuff and a lot of the callbacks and what this does ultimately lead to, I found that to be very competently handled. It's not the same writers as the first three, but the writers here, Shay Hatten and Michael Finch, they do everything they can to make it consistent and to make it competent and to make it look really well done here. Off the choreography and the action sequences, thankfully I love the action, and despite every action set piece here, none of it feels similar or familiar. There's an entire 30-minute action sequence, which I did say in my negatives is a bit too long, but I think that overall in terms of the film, it does go along pretty well and is a great pace. And it definitely does get you ready for what is going to happen. Each action scene is well shot, well edited. It's not a bunch of shaky cam and not a bunch of any of that stuff going on. You can tell where it's a stunt double, but you can tell that these are stunt doubles and actors actually filming for real. So I definitely do appreciate that side of things, and it definitely does make this movie a lot more watchable and a lot more entertaining when you think about it, because it's very easy to get lost in that and just do quick cuts and quick editing, but they really do take the time and make it feel coherent with each action scene. So the action is still great, it's still bloody, it's still brutal, and you get to see John Wick doing it, what it is that he do. Cinematography is great as well here by Dan Lauslin. It's a well-edited movie by Nathan Orloff, even though I will say it is a little long, but 2 hours 49 minutes didn't feel anything. It's at least way shorter than Oppenheimer, I'll say that. The music by Tyler Bates and Joel J. Richard is also really good. I also like the main song here, of course, by Rina Sayamawa. So that is really good here. Scene-wise, everyone in this, the performances are very good. Keanu Reeves is John Wick. The fact that he puts a lot of dedication into every one of his movies, even if it's not always great, shows how committed he can be as an actor. Not the most greatest actor in the world, but he is a charismatic actor, and he's very good in here as John Wick. I very much enjoyed him. His performances were very good. His action was really good. I loved the performances, and he puts everything he got into this. You could tell that this is probably his last time playing this character, besides the ballerina spinoff, which I look forward to. He doesn't have a lot of dialogue, but for the dialogue he does have, he is good there. But also give him some emotion there with some facial expressions and stuff. He does really good there. I also really like Donnie Yen as Kang. He is forced out retirement to kill John Wick and to assure the safety of his daughter. I thought Donnie Yen was great here. He had a lot more to do than I think he did in Rogue One. Bill Skarsgård as the Marquise Vincent, he was pretty good for the antagonist. I love Bill Skarsgård. He was great as Pennywise. He was great in Barbarian. So another good one to add one. Laurence Fishburne, always good to see him and Keanu Reeves reunite. It's very fun to see. Unfortunately, you don't have Carrie-Anne Moss in this, but I'm not asking for a Matrix reunion in John Wick. But it's kind of like that with him and Laurence Fishburne. Hiroyuki Sanada as Koji, he was great. You have the late Lance Reddick as Sharon, one of his last times playing the character besides the upcoming ballerina. Shamier Anderson, I thought he was good. It was Mr. Nobody. Ian McShane was good as Winston Scott. Clancy Brown as the Harbinger was good. You also have Natalia Tenen as Katia, John Wick's adopted sister, which it was good to see a familiar face from Harry Potter. Some archival footage of Bridget Monahan from the first movie. You also have Marco Zaron. Scott Adkins, very unrecognizable with his makeup they give for him as Keela Harkon, but I thought he was pretty decent. He's pretty hit and miss with me, but he does have a good fighting style, so I will give him that. And he's a good martial artist. But the standout for me was Rina Sawayama as Shimazu Akira. She was great here. This was her first movie. For a Japanese musician to go into acting, if she gives more breakthrough performances like this, I can definitely say that she's actually very good. She's great in here as well. Like I said, I would love to have seen Halle Berry come back as Sophia, but I think for that, everyone in the cast does a good job. And the direction here and the way this movie ends, I actually really appreciate the way this movie ends. I know some people hate this ending, but I think the way it ends is really well done. The way it ends for me, I was personally okay with it. They had to go this route at some point. I know some people disagree, but I was okay with it. Overall thoughts. In conclusion, to wrap this up before I go any further, this is my Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning of 2023. I know some people say that movie's good. This last movie, which I think should be the last movie, they went out with a high note. I liked the action. I loved the story. The characters were great. The story was great. The villain was great. Had a few issues with some pacing and what they do with Sharon, which is not a problem with me. But I ultimately really enjoyed John Wick Chapter 4. It was a great conclusion to this. series, and I look forward to Ballerina and see hopefully Ana de Armas gets the same treatment to have her own John Wick spin-off franchise. Only time will tell, but we'll see. But we got that, and we have a TV show coming on Peacock, so there we go. And ultimately, I'm gonna go ahead and give this a better than Vampire Academy. Well, that's gonna do it for the video that you just watched. I will have my channel here, so you would like to see anything here, click the channel icon, subscribe for more. I will also leave a video and maybe a playlist here, so in case you want to see what I'm about. As always, stay Epictasticness, join the Epictasticness, and you guys keep it cool.